Okay, welcome to The Uncommon Truth. I'm here with Steve and Vicki Orsillo, and we're on video, so this is the one time we'll acknowledge the camera. Hey, everybody.
Third wall?
Yeah,
Fifth wall?
I don't know.
Okay.
The third dimension, fifth dimension. It's fallen.
Yep.
I've already broken all the rules, so welcome here. That's actually why I invited you guys, because, yeah, Vicki's great at breaking the rules, and Steve's good at setting the rules, so together we're good, right?
I'm lawless.
Together we can all be frustrated together.
Yeah.
Welcome to his life.
So before the show, we were singing Toto songs. So
Toto.
If that happens.
Toto hits.
Yeah, Toto hits.
There's at least 3.
Steve came to me yesterday and said there's only 2 Toto songs that they're hits that he recognized, and so I spent the whole day yesterday listening to Toto.
What I really said was we listened for 45 minutes and
is silly.
they did bits of 30 songs and didn't sing their hits.
And you only recognized.
You only recognized only one, and they didn't sing Rosanna. They didn't sing Hold the Line.
Man.
Just we bless the rains
We bless
down.
the rains down in Africa.
That's great.
You know,
It'll take 100
Hold
men
the
or
line.
more.
The whole line is their biggest hit, I think.
yeah, Hold the Line
Yeah.
is definitely.
I
Once
really
I heard
like-
it, I went, "That's Toto." Oh, that is a big hit.
We kind of miss the 80s for, secular.
I still listen to Toto. Their songs sound like worship songs, like secular worship songs to me, especially Africa, because.
You may have a problem.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
No, tell everybody
You
how
may
Rosanna
not be
goes.
well.
We could sing Rosanna as Hosanna.
Go ahead,
Hosanna, do it.
How does
Do
it
it.
go again?
Hosanna,
Hosanna.
Hosanna.
Never thought that a God like you could be this good to me.
Woo!
Keep going.
Hosanna.
That's right. That's good.
Good thing we have good
We just
quality
lost
microphones.
all of our listeners.
People
I
are
don't
just
think
tuned
that
out
was
by the
unless they're from
the tens.
Amsterdam. Amsterdam is wild for a Toto.
Wild for Toto, yeah.
So
Well,
we just won them over.
we got some other friends that were singing along with us yesterday.
you
But
think
believe
so?
it or not, we're not just going to talk about Toto today. That'd be a little bit of a left turn from what we usually talk about.
We probably should hashtag and we might get more
Hashtag
listeners.
Toto, yeah.
Hashtag
There we
Toto.
go. We're actually going to be talking about where we left off last week. Last week, if you didn't tune in, we were talking about a life following Jesus is supposed to look completely different
Correct.
than the world. And we got that because our lives are completely different right now with everything that's going on. I don't know many people's lives that are the same today as they were 8 weeks ago.
That's right.
Right.
But we left off that it's supposed to be different because we're following Jesus. And so where we want to take that today is not just different for the sake of different, but different as in looking like Jesus. And Steve, you're really fond of saying a Christian is a mini Jesus, is a little Jesus going around doing the things that Jesus does.
Yep.
And one of the things I want to talk about today was the thing that Jesus, when I think of Jesus, I think of sacrifice. And that's what just made him so different, was he wasn't what everybody thought he was going to be, a conquering king coming in and making the kingdom the way everybody thought it would be, but he brought the kingdom of heaven through sacrifice. So that's where I wanted to go today. What do you guys think about that?
Seems really deep.
Sounds good to me.
We went from Toto to
Wow.
totally deep.
To sacrifice
totally
in our
deep.
lives.
Toto to Toto deep.
Oh,
Some
boy.
people might think listening to Toto is a sacrifice, and I feel for those people.
Yeah, it is.
They
a
need to hold the
sacrifice.
line.
Yeah.
For me, it's bubblegum music. So yeah,
Love isn't always on time.
That's right.
That's right.
So prophetic.
So I have a feeling that this theme of sacrifice will be pretty good for us because we talk about uncommon truth, the things that we don't really cover, you don't hear a lot of in Christianity, or I guess from mainstream Christianity. It's not really like a build your church sort of message, but it is something that you guys both talk about a lot. You would call it, I guess, giving your life away, right?
That's right.
Yep.
And so I wanted to ask, has Christianity in the West, have we forgot about sacrifice? What do you think, Vicki?
Well, I don't want to paint it with a broad stroke or paintbrush, but I think for the most part, yes. I think a lot of times, a generalization, we have painted Christianity as bumper sticker bites and song words, and we've cherry picked the scriptures of Jesus, go back and forth from the Old Testament to the New Testament, Old Covenant to the New Covenant, and I think we have lost those words of Jesus. And then look at the apostles, and the disciples after Jesus was murdered, they sacrificed it. It is actually harrowing to read what those men went through, serving Jesus. There was a life of sacrifice. So I believe in the Western Christianity, we definitely have misplaced sacrifice. It's become a bless me club. What can Jesus do for me? And then when he doesn't do it for me, so many Christians have lost their faith. When bad things happen to good people, it's like we're so shocked because that's not supposed to happen, because I think we have just really, really taken his words out of context. So my answer would be yes.
What do you think, Steve?
So I think that the popularity of different messages. So you want to hear two messages. One says, give and you shall receive, and teaches you to give sacrificially. And the other one said, God's best days are ahead of you, and he's not mad at you. He blesses you, and every good thing's going to come your way. And surely goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. Well, which message are you going to listen to? And I think that because what Vicki said, the word cherry pick. So that's what we do to create a message that says, bless me, bless me, bless me. And God is all happy, and he's not who he says he is. And then the other one, you says that, give, give, give. I think that what we're supposed to be is both. And Jesus said something really powerful that has now been misconstrued in today's world. He said, I desire mercy more than sacrifice. And so what we've done, instead of putting it 1-2, is we've said we've just by our nature made sacrifice to be number 25 or number 75, or how low does your number go? And so, or high, but how far away can you get that sacrifice? How many words can you put between mercy and sacrifice? And both are words for giving. And so what he was really saying is, I desire giving, and the more important giving is mercy more than money, more mercy more than labor, help, works.
That's good.
And that's all he was saying, was in the category of giving, mercy's my number one. But he wasn't in any way saying sacrificial giving or sacrificial service.
Our life.
Sacrificial sacrifice of your life
Yeah.
isn't important. He said no greater love. So when it comes to love, sacrifice is the no greater. There's nothing greater than sacrificing your life for others. And so I think those are the ones I mean, when you say sacrifice your life for others, everybody gets a cold chill.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather let my neighbor do that for his neighbor than me do it for my neighbor. And that's what goes in. I mean, being honest, what goes across your brain, and you have to kind of say, no, I want to be a man who sacrifices his life for his neighbor, but I still, when it comes down, when the rubber meets the road, I'd rather you sacrifice your life for our neighbor than me. So you follow?
Oh yeah.
And so
I get that.
It's a mind game we play with ourselves where we say it, but then in our head we're going, well, and he said it no greater love has any man than that he lay down his life for his brother. That's sacrifice. But in the day-to-day giving of service, the day-to-day giving of to the least of these my brethren, in other words, I was hungry, I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to eat or drink. I want you to do it to the least of these my brethren. That kind of sacrificial giving, don't forget, my greatest desire for you is that you learn to give mercy. So to go out and give those things and be unmerciful, you would not be fulfilling my highest calling. To go out and do those things and be merciful, you would really be something special in the kingdom of heaven.
So they really go hand in hand.
Yeah, they are. It's not a separation. Mercy and sacrifice are the same thing, but he's categorizing the love, forgiveness, lack of judgment, serving those who can't serve you back. He's saying, these are my greatest heart. And yet we read it as, sacrifice goes to the bottom of the list.
That's good.
Mercy goes to the top. And that is no way what that verse says. But that is how we got here.
You are so smart.
Wow.
That's amazing.
What'd you say, Vicki?
That's
I'm
on
sorry.
video.
Remember my hearing?
I don't remember what I said.
My hearing's
play it
failing.
back.
Short term
There for a
memory
second,
loss.
I thought I didn't listen. I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
No, I'm sorry. I don't know. That was really good, honestly, because the categorizing of mercy and sacrifice is such a great point. Honestly, we in the Western church, the Western society, we don't want sacrifice. We don't want to do that, and it does move down. I think that was a great way of delineating what that means.
Yeah.
A life of sacrifice.
And I frame the question as in Western Christianity because I don't see, and maybe I don't know enough, but I don't see that problem in like third world Christianity or in communist China.
They're all
or
in.
places where people are they're actually actively getting persecuted for their faith.
Yeah.
Why is it that we have the problem here in America, Canada, Europe, and they don't have it in like basement churches in China?
You know, any place where the Bible talks about end times, it'll lay out for the condition of man at the time, and one of the most important places it lays that out. It says that it's when people say we are in peace and safety, we're good, and really in another place it says when man says he doesn't need God. I think if you look around our world today, I think you could pretty much say that no matter what words they're screaming, it comes out in translation in the tongues of men and of angels. It comes out as we don't need God.
Actions.
And so I think that all of these statements talking about the end times and the condition of man going in this direction, it really comes down to we don't need God. And that's what causes people to get softer and softer and softer on our needs, what we need to do. Third world countries, a place where suffering is a daily existence and struggle for even the basics, food and water, and even the ability to have life is dependent on whether they find you or don't find you, where persecution is great. I think they have a much easier time holding on to. There's no peace and safety, and we do need God. And God, please save us. Somebody tell us what it takes to have God save us. And where can we find peace in our hearts? And where, you know, they have a much greater desire to hold on to a supernatural deliverance from God than we in this country. We can have an experience on a Friday night at the church, can fall down in the spirit and be prayed for and have holy laughter and shaking and woeing and hoeing and yelling and screaming. And then Saturday morning comes and somebody wants us to come help them. And no, I just want to, you know, I was up late last night with the Holy Spirit. I can't help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we really have the choice every day at one moment to say I need God and the next moment to say I really don't, through our actions and through our idolatry, even, you know, our worship of everything around us. Whereas those people in third world countries have no chance at that. They're both laying in a mud hut, you know, with ants and with the livestock, if they have any, you know. They have to protect their goats so they can drink milk. And they got to find food for the goats so they can have milk for the kids.
Yeah.
And we don't have that. You know, Cinderella Man in that movie said, they asked him a question. He said, it's milk money. And nobody understood his answer. He said, well, all my life I took for granted I'm always going to be able to have milk for my kids. But now in this depression, I'm fighting for milk money. My kids won't have milk if I don't fight.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same answer as third world. It's even here we have poor people, and they probably have a chance to hold on better. And I know that's why our ministry is successful. We identified the harvest as people who, we need to find people desperate, because when they meet Jesus, they actually may be able to ignore the world telling them they don't need God. Hey, I sure needed him to get where I'm at now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so
all sorts of desperation, right? It's not
desperation,
just,
really.
not just desperation for food or for shelter,
all
but also
sorts.
Like I was somebody who hated myself. I did this to escape reality because of things that were done to me, right? I think we'll get to that a little bit later, but I wanted to ask about the impact of sacrifice. So both on individuals, so what does it mean for me to sacrifice? But what happens to the world? What happens to the world, Vicki, if we don't sacrifice as Christians, if we leave that out completely of our theology?
I think we rob them. I was thinking as Steve was speaking is that in my darkest moments, it's where I drew closest to Jesus. It's if somebody told me a long time ago, it's faith isn't faith until it's all you got, you know, and the desperation of sacrifice. I think we do a disservice, you know. We don't want to, you know, you know us. We're not just doom and gloom, and we have a lot of joy. We have a lot of fun. But the truth is, I think we do a disservice of not teaching people about sacrifice, or giving your life away is how we phrase it, don't we? It's like, and I think the Father's House examples that fairly well. We meet the needs of others. So I think in the overall snapshot of the Western Christianity, I think we need to probably make that more readily available to the people that are sitting in our chairs or our pews. And when people get saved, I think they need to right away start reading the words of Jesus in context, because they're hungry at that moment, and they won't get confused.
Yeah, stop cherry picking.
Stop cherry picking, and just, and I think pastors do series on marriage or children, and I think that's great. However, I think the overall theme of the church should be the words of Jesus, and and then the apostles and how we should live, the disciples. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you did. And I think you guys do a good job of making sure no cherry picking can happen.
Right.
I mean, you'd have to know which service to come to, or read ahead and say, like, well, Steve's going to talk about sacrifice this week because this is the next verse in Matthew, so I better take this Sunday off if you don't want to hear about it, right?
And
because you guys just go, chapter by chapter.
Yep.
And sometimes it'll take you 2 months to get through one chapter, or 3 months to get through one chapter, right? And
now the thing is, I just want to define cherry pick. Some people might not know, but it's just taking your favorite scriptures or whatever and just speaking about those. And oftentimes they're out of context. They're not really telling you what the historical things are going on, who he's talking to.
Yeah.
And like you said, we have for 21 years. We just start, literally Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, though I think we started in John when we started 21 years ago. And it's just, you cannot just X out these scriptures. They're just there. And if you believe Jesus not to be a liar, it's like, what are we going to do with these scriptures? Mm-hmm. And I think if any listeners who have been Christians for a while, I would just kind of say, go back to where you first started and just start reading the Gospels again in context. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep. So for me, we moved from Canada 2 years ago, and we didn't end up here until a little bit later because we took some time in Colorado to visit family. But the reason we moved was because we visited here, and then we went back to Canada and started reading. I'd read the Gospels dozens of times, but I had been looking at this story or this parable.
Yep.
I wanted to teach this thing to campers, so
Correct.
I looked at that. But what I started to do after hearing a sermon that you preached was, I'm just going to start, and I'm going to read all the way through, and I'm going to note the things. First thing I picked was, what does it mean to be saved? So anytime something about salvation came up, I would put a little S next to it, and then I'd go back and be like, okay, well, what does Jesus actually say about being saved? And I did that again for identity. Who is Jesus?
That's good.
And then, so I think I did it 3 times before I actually got here.
Wow.
And that'll change your whole world.
Well, it did because we came here.
That changed your whole world.
And maybe we didn't know everything what we were getting into. We had visited a couple times, but it did result in us putting a higher value on sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't change my heart towards sacrifice. It was still, this is tough.
This is tough.
Yeah.
And moving in and being told the very first thing is, you better take those bikes off the top of your car. They won't be here in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, all right. Well,
we're not in Kansas there,
exactly.
Dorothy.
We're not in Manitoba anymore.
That's right.
That's right.
We didn't have a key to our house.
I'm so glad you're here.
Me too.
I am too.
Your family is amazing. You just fit.
We're so glad you're here.
Yeah, but it was a sacrifice, and if if you've been listening to the online broadcast that we've been running through this virus, you hear a lot of people who've really sacrificed their life, their money, their time, their future, and they've just picked up and moved to Oroville. That was their sacrifice. I'm not saying that everybody needs to move to Oroville. I'm just saying it was the people that you're hearing. It's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's following Jesus. I'm just reading, again, Danielle's book, A Line in the Sand. And for those who don't have it, I think it's probably the most influential book.
I'll definitely put a link to it.
Yeah. It's, I'm rereading it, and not just because it's my daughter. I don't really like to read that much, but I'm just like, this is such a good book, and to go alongside with the Bible. And I just like it. I wrote in Facebook today, it's like, if you're going to read one book besides the Bible, this is the one I would do, because it really delineates in context what Jesus says.
It's short and sweet too. It's
short and sweet,
right to
easy.
the point.
The chapters are short, and then the biblical references are really
phenomenal.
long.
Yeah,
And
there's
lots,
more biblical
and
references
lots
than
there is chapters.
She's just like me in her articulation and knowing the scriptures and writing.
She is definitely her
I'll tell her that.
mama's daughter. That's right.
So I wanted to get to that. So that was a little bit of my story of growing in sacrifice.
It's really good.
But I know there's some some things we were going to talk about last week and we didn't get to because our conversation, we ended up talking about our friend Yos, who's single.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yos is still
Well,
single?
that was a second.
Yeah.
Is he still single?
It didn't
still
help. He's
single.
still single.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we got to get subscribers up. So.
We have another single guy in the audience, too. We got two.
Okay.
We have a lot of single guys at the Father's house, don't we?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's I don't know if that gets on sacrifice. Maybe we took another.
These ladies
route.
need to
Sacrifice your life. Come here and
sacrifice.
marry these guys.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
yeah.
They're desperate. No, they're not desperate.
Yeah.
Look at
Not
Yos.
desperate.
Yos is looking
Oh,
around.
man.
Are you looking at Kale? Yeah.
There we go. We're under the 6-person limit. There's 5 of us in the room.
That's right.
One person for
That's-
technical and one
Yep.
person to
We are
be our
law-abiding
one
Christians.
person live audience.
That's right.
But what I wanted to get to is your story of how sacrifice changed your view. You had at first, when you moved to Oroville, you guys wanted to put the church in downtown Oroville.
We
Which
wanted
was,
a nice, rich church.
On Orodam Boulevard, the main drag, right?
Yeah, we wanted
So,
a pretty
storefront,
mauve colored.
church.
Okay.
It was going to be beautiful.
And just describe really quick, where are we at now? We're in the church building
Yeah.
recording.
We
What
are in an
neighborhood are
old
we
warehouse in Southside that we
Which
have
is
renovated
gorgeous.
into a beautiful church.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it wasn't when we walked here and we saw it.
No.
It was actually a truck diesel shop, and there was a I'm pointing to the right by the stage, but there's a roll up garage door, and there's a truck right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a
Right.
truck, and the catwalk was up there, and it smelled
Yeah.
like diesel.
And it took incredible sacrifice
Yeah.
by Vicki to get this place built.
That's right.
She sacrificed all her money on this place.
What was the change that made you want to go from putting your church out, and like any other church, kind of like out where people wouldn't be uncomfortable getting here, or
There's a building in
here?
Southside on Spencer and B Street, and we were mopping our way in and mopping our way out every Sunday, and they were loaning us the building. It was like a $5 a month rent, with an insurance and a disclaimers, to protect them, and they were letting us use it, but it was a filthy place, and we had to mop our way in, mop our way out. It had posters on the wall about teen pregnancy, about sexually transmitted diseases, and so we did church in the midst of all those posters and all the communications about all the social diseases and things wrong with society. And we were planning to build our own church where we discussed, and Vicki and I stepped out of there one day, and I had felt the Lord speak to me that this is our church and we're going to build it in Southside. I had already negotiated a building, an old
Rent to own now.
No, it was it's all rent own now, but
Yeah.
it was car parts, Grand Auto, maybe.
Was it
I
really?
think it was Grand Auto.
But it was right in the middle of town.
Yeah.
Right on the main drag,
Yeah.
right there where every car
It was gonna be
goes
party.
5 times a day. And when they would see our band, they would see our, beautiful
Windows
and it
in
would
the
draw
front.
people anyway.
Yeah.
It was
Lots of
next door to
parking.
the most absolutely overrun restaurant at the time. It was this very, very popular restaurant. And it was this building next to it. So it was going to get a lot of traffic and see a lot of the who's who of Oroville. And the Lord spoke to me in this Bible study on B and Spencer. And as I said, Vicki, what did you hear the Lord say? And she said, before I could say it, she said that we're going to be meeting, our church is going to be in Southside, and that these people are our church.
That's right.
And I knew that isn't the pastel-colored vineyard-type church
Oh,
that
boy.
we were building. That was going to be something wholly different. And we started a 21-day fast and prayer walk in the streets of Southside to say, okay, if you're sending us to this neighborhood, what are we doing? And it was remarkable, the words people got as we prayer walked every morning for 21 days.
5 in the morning.
And I fasted for that 21 days. And, people fasted some things, but I totally fasted. And my friend Mike, who recently passed away, he fasted with me. And we walked these streets every morning, we opened in prayer, closed in prayer, and walked down every street over that 21 days, praying over every house. And the Lord began to show us. He pointed out a property, pointed out the future. And we began. And every bit of it was massive sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And I think that last week we really hit a lot on giving. Churches, why we come together in church, why you join a church
Community.
is because that's where your opportunity to give is expounded. And that's Jesus's plan for
I think that was a couple weeks ago, but yeah.
Yeah, that's Jesus's plan, is that we give.
Yeah.
And so we're using the word sacrifice, but to me the word sacrifice is really giving, and it's so much more than product or money. It's life, giving your life. And so this church is built 100% on sacrifice and giving, and continues. If anybody has anything good, like if you watch our broadcasts every night and you see the testimonies of all these leaders in this church saying what their life was and what their life is, I can tell you, because me and Vicki have been here, we can tell you the stories of sacrifice that caused their life to be good.
Yeah.
And it is the pavement on which Christianity rolls. It's what
good.
directs the path of Christianity. It's where we hard surface the ground under our feet, is through sacrifice. And that's what gives us fire in our bellies, fuel for our souls.
Yeah.
It's why we have so much joy. In the midst of a year with losing a granddaughter, we have tremendous joy. Losing an associate pastor, we have incredible joy. And, all of the other things going on, and they are many, we have incredible joy. And what fuels that? It's our sacrifice under one statement: we work for Jesus. We do our best, we do our most, we give it all, and we sacrifice anything to work for Jesus, who gave even more than we did to save these individuals we're ministering to. And if he gave that much to save them, how could we withhold anything?
So good.
Yeah. It's about love, right?
Yes.
And it's about loving him, and that translating into his love for them. And so even if I don't like them, even if I don't want to love them, his love translates through me because I love him. He prevails upon me, and I end up loving them.
Yeah. So how did your view, because the people that you would have met at this church where you had thought you would set
The
up
Mauve Church.
the Mauve Church,
Yeah.
would have been a lot different people than you
boy.
meet in Southside.
Yeah.
How did Jesus have to change your thinking to love the people here and sacrifice for them?
I don't know how he did it, but
He's God. He's a God.
It was step by step.
Just said yes.
And I confess that in 1997, when he told this, and by 1998, when we opened, I didn't. I had no desire. I said they made them. They're this way because they
They
want
made
to be
their
this
bed, let
way.
them sleep
Yeah. So
in
we're
it.
They
talking.
don't want-
We're talking
yeah.
poor, like
Homeless,
generationally
drug
poor,
addiction.
I don't.
needles on the
I
alcohol.
had great heart for poor, but I was raised by
Poor
depressionary people who said even if you're poor, you don't have to be dirty.
That's right.
So I had a judgment about that.
Yeah.
And all of their inabilities to help themselves, to seek, Jesus, all of their inabilities had me judging heavily.
Correct.
And I had words from the Lord which changed me, seared me, convicted me about where was this adult you're so mad at, and this kid you're so compassionate towards. How about you think for a moment, who was that adult 15 years
10
ago?
Yeah.
He was that kid, and nobody loved him, and he became that. Now, how can you hold that against him? That's what changed me. And it was step by step, and it was quickly. So I was like one of those people in a sci-fi movie who is
Morphed.
like morphed. I was kind of morphed in a very short time.
Yeah.
Because my vision of Foursquare,
Church.
evangelical Christianity, vineyard with the Holy Spirit added to some of these other things, I was going after a very distinct crowd. And here's the thing: if I did, I would have been successful, and it would have been the same exact answers. It would have been the same exact process. It would have required all the same sacrifices for me to be successful. What I call successful is inspiring other people to love Jesus. So if I'd have went to rich people, it would have been the same thing. They would have still hated themselves. They still would have needed love. They still would have needed sacrifice. But what he did was he directed me here because I asked him, where is the harvest most likely to be plentiful? I want to work the harvest. And he showed me this, and I did not moan and groan. I said, okay, whatever your will is, I'm happy to do it. But you do know that I already judge these people, and I already don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so I put myself in the hands of the teacher, and he taught us. And through walking and fasting prayer, people say, what happened from all these prayers and fasting you did, all this prayer walking?
We're seeing it now, aren't we?
Yeah, well, we're seeing a lot of results
Yeah.
from it, but the most important result was me.
So you were sacrificing a lot, and I wanted to ask you, Vicki, what was it like being the wife of somebody who sacrificed so much?
Well, I never ever really felt like we sacrificed that much because it's like it was love in action, and we saw what happened when you give your life away. Just we got that early on in our Christian walk at the Father's house, especially. I think it really was at the Father's house where we really saw it. We had 4 kids, and one has Down syndrome, and they're all pretty athletic, loud leaders, involved in everything. Yeah. In fact, our one daughter, Danielle, she is like the top 2 female athletes in the state of California. So we follow. We were parent groupies, kind of,
Yeah.
But it was interesting, even though he was working full time at. He actually had the second largest construction company in Oroville, maybe even Butte County. He was building houses. We were building a church. We were building a family. Our kids never really lacked for anything. We never missed one game. We never missed one gymnastics. Anthony was in gymnastics. Nicole was in plays and everything. And we never missed anything.
We were there.
It didn't feel like a sacrifice because
No.
we gave our time away and we got it back. It was really the action of giving and you shall receive, and not just money, but your life. So I really never felt like I was really sacrificing. I think when we moved down here and my kids were little and it was a very scary place, there's drive-bys and prostitutes on the corner. And I think Anthony was 3 or 4. It was kind of daunting. When we first started.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not even, it's like, that's like 10% of what it was.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird. It was a whole cultural shift. The church was a cultural shift for what we were raised in our Christianity before this. And I believe it was just saying yes to Jesus and just doing the next right thing is how we based our life. And I guess the answer is I don't really feel like it was that much of a sacrifice because the Lord just met us in every place and we didn't give up anything.
Yeah.
It sounds like the yes. This is what Danielle would say when she was on the podcast.
Say yes.
The yes transformed into something where he gave you the tools to make it possible.
Yeah.
All he needed was your yes.
Yeah.
Right?
I think today I was reading in her book, and we've often talked about this, Stephen. I think he uses it in his sermons a lot, is that one scene in Indiana Jones with Sean Connery where he has to go across to get the chalice, and there's a big chasm, and there's no bridge, and he doesn't know what to do. His dad's dying. And it's like, I think that's such a great indication of how we've kind of lived. There's been no bridge sometimes, we just walk. And the Father and the Lord Jesus always just comes to our rescue. When I stand here today, 21 years later, almost 20, I think it's 22 right now actually, and I look back at you, Max, or Yos, or Kale, or whoever, and I look back at what God has done in us, I'm just as shocked as anybody else. When people come and say, I can't believe this, it's like I'm still totally and utterly amazed at what Jesus has done through our air quotes sacrifice, giving our life away. So I hope that answers it.
From the outside, it really looks like sacrifice.
Yeah.
And if you look at comparing, say you want to get into the business of comparing yourself to somebody else, or then it could be like, well, I didn't have this or I didn't have that.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the stuff. Isn't that the stuff that kind of gets us into that trouble spot?
It's in trouble when you compare your life to others and just enjoying the moment. And I think we've done a good job of enjoying today and not looking to tomorrow. Today's a great day, and it's the best day ever. Yeah. So, and I just, just really quickly, Jordy Mumby, he really did come and sacrifice he literally sacrificed his life for the sake of others. He moved from Canada with his wife and then raised his 4 kids here, and now he's gone to be with Jesus, and I believe he obtained the eternal life. I believe the Lord's saying to him, well done. He realized what was important, and I think in Western society we don't really realize what we can think a car, a house, a vacation, in university is important, and I think it's just reevaluating what Jesus wants for you, and that's sacrifice.
Yeah. So we got a lot of people listening. And a lot of people will be able to identify with what you're talking about, but there's going to be some who are just, this is like a new thing to them.
It's hard.
Like I've been skipping over these sacrifice scriptures, been cherry picking, or just been picking the ones that are easy to post on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? And they've never heard this before. How does somebody who's just coming to that realization about the importance of sacrifice, how do they put that into practice in their life?
You go, and you want me to go?
Rock, paper, scissors?
So I just think if you're being convicted right now from, or even judgmental or angry or hostile to what we're saying, it's like don't take our word for it. Study to show yourself approved, and then just try it.
Yeah.
Read the Gospels in context and ask the Lord what He thinks. I think you'll be pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised. I think
it might be a little bit of both.
Yeah, and I think just ask the Lord for forgiveness, because in the Western society, our Christianity is rather about me sometimes and how I'm going to be blessed. So I would say don't take our word for it, but study to show yourself approved, and just kind of just find out whether it's true or not.
Yeah. And what is that once you find out, oh man, it's about sacrifice and I missed it. What do you do then? Like, how do you set your priorities?
Your priorities have to start with a relationship with Jesus, with God. He must be on the throne of our life. When we say we became a Christian, what it's supposed to be is a kingdom with a king. And we are supposed to be subjects to that king. And he is God. If he takes the stage, he takes the throne of your life, you're not gonna ask a lot of questions. It's going to be very clear. If he truly becomes the center of your life, you begin to do what subjects do with kings, worshiping him, thanking him, relying on him. And so in my life, there's a throne. I have a throne with Jesus on it. And the second level of my throne is my wife. I made a vow at an altar before God to put her before me. And then we had children, and I had a dilemma because it seemed like the right thing to do was for us to serve those children first, right?
Yeah.
But one thing we always understood was you can't put your children before God, but then do you put them before each other? And so we easily were taught by him, your children have to come after your spouse, because otherwise they won't be healthy and your life won't be healthy. So to recap, it's God first, your spouse second, your children third.
Okay.
Everybody else, I mean, there's millions of verses about this. Everybody else has to come next, and then you get to come last. That's the throne of your order. That's the order of a throne that produces the abundant life. That's the one where sacrifice, you won't have to ask what sacrifice. It'll be all around you. You will have so many opportunities. It'll be like picking up manna that's just scattered all over the ground. It'd be like going to a gravel pit and trying to figure out which piece of gravel to pick up next. There'll be abundant. There'll be an abundance of
Opportunities,
giving and receiving, opportunities, love. Love will come to you. Love will go from you. It'll just be exactly what Jesus described abundant life as. That's what will happen.
Okay. And so when you sacrifice, when you start living that way, I heard you say, Vicki, it didn't feel like we were sacrificing in the end. And you guys have a hard time saying how your life could be any better than is now. That's right. So where does that go for somebody? Like, what's in store for them when they start actually doing this?
I think, Max, if you're just going to pummel yourself to sacrifice, I think you'll burn out. You'll be one of the burnouts now.
That's probably questions that are going through people's heads.
Yeah, because it's like I got to do it. I think you'll burn out. It's a wrong question. It's just saying yes to Jesus every day, saying yes to Jesus, like Steve said.
The opportunities that come to
looking
you.
around at the gravel pit and picking, But we are not burnout. We are far from it. We have more energy than anybody should have at 62 and 63. Our life is full. We haven't burnt out. And I think that's a lot of people have come to the Father's house from around the world, and they think we're working our way to heaven. It's like, well, then I would have burned out a long time ago with my sacrifice. It's the wrong question. I think it's just like saying yes to Jesus. Read in Jesus in context. Study to show yourself approved. Say, Lord, forgive my wrong thinking. I think Steve's, praise it every day. Lord, forgive my wrong thinking, because we do have a lot of stinking thinking. And it's just like, I want to be hot for you, Jesus, because he talks about being lukewarm. It's not a good place to be. So I think falling in love with Jesus would be coming back. Your first love would be number one, and then stay in there on the line. And as you give your life away, it just brings so much darn joy. It just really does. Sometimes your flesh goes, someone asks you to move a piano or something, you're like, everybody feels that, right? Now I was going to go have a ice cream, at Yeovil, or, that's a shameless plug, but it's not ice cream, it's yogurt at Yeovil, our little yogurt shop. But it's so good. I think really, honestly, the question is just to going back to your first love, and all these things shall be added unto you. Do you think that's good, Steve?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm looking forward to that love, my love with Jesus growing.
Yes.
So that it overflows onto other people.
Correct.
Because if, like, I've been in both places where when I worked at camp, it was like, man, I couldn't help but loving these kids because I love Jesus. And then there are other days where it's like, well, loving Jesus today looks like balancing the budget, and that's not really fun, but this is your camp, right? And now in the things here, feeding the hungry at food bank, that doesn't stop because of pandemics. It actually goes more, right?
That's right.
And so it's.
I think the most important thing we can say to our listeners is that you have to get an idea. We've developed an idea in our head that I work for Jesus. I'm not deserved anything. I'm not owed anything. I owe everything, and I work for Jesus. And that I work for Jesus is probably the most important part of this sacrifice thing. When you say I live for Jesus, it doesn't really pinpoint much.
Yeah.
But when you say I work for Jesus, that means what I'm doing. Someone says, well, I've done enough, haven't I? Well, I don't know. Have you? I mean, is that what it brings us back to? Is this what we need to do for Jesus?
Yeah.
And it has two-way street. One is it sees that he's using me. That's a miracle. And the second is I work for him. Have I really given enough? And that drives me. And I think that around here, I think it drives a lot of people. And why we have such amazing results is because of, foremost, that description of how to get it. Like you said, people say, well, how do I get this? Or what do I do? What's the first step? Just start to wake up in the morning and say, it's your day.
Yeah,
this is the day the Lord has made. It's your day.
What do you want to do, Jesus?
And I'm yours. So my day is yours. My life is yours. Can you use me? And then look for those opportunities. Pretty soon you're going to see he's going to use you a lot. And once he does, add the phrase, I work for Jesus. He gives me tasks every day. He gives me jobs. He employs me every day. And what I do for him doesn't feel like sacrifice.
Because you love him.
Because we love him.
Because I love him. And then you start to watch the abundant return of giving that is promised. It's going to be true. He's going to be true. And the abundant return is not in diamonds and rubies and pearls. It's in peace and patience, kindness, goodness, and love.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think that makes it really clear. It sets a high bar, but it's also something that, like how you grow without reaching for these high bars, right?
What I like about it being a high bar is even a child can do it.
Yeah.
Children can understand it. Dummies like me can understand it. Geniuses like our daughters and people like Sarah Budd and Chloe and all these geniuses and Max.
There you go.
And Yos, all these geniuses can understand it too. So it's not exclusive to a dummy or a genius. Everybody can get this, and it's everybody can partake.
Yeah.
And I always know things are truth when really everybody. A lot of times I hear a truth and I go, well, what about the people who've just been squished in life?
Yeah.
They can't get that. But this they can get.
Mm-hmm.
They can do it in their people who live in the garbage dump in Mexico can serve each other this way and sacrifice this way.
Yeah.
Children can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Poor people can get it. Victims can get it. Victimizers can get it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So for people who are listening to this and you like this conversation, you want more of this conversation, you got good news. We got Steve and Vicki every week.
Oh, boy.
We got to make sure that it gets in Steve's calendar every week.
Oh, he didn't have it in his calendar?
And
No.
You didn't?
No, he didn't.
So why you were wearing a
we
red
got
shirt?
him here. And so we're also learning how to dress. So we sort of coordinated ourselves.
We do. We look pretty good, I think.
First
don't
week
we?
on video, I had a really bright purple hat.
Purple
and Steve
hat,
was wearing a
red.
red shirt.
And I was wearing
Vicki,
black.
Yeah. So we're getting better at this, but the conversations are what matter, and we're having those conversations every week. So if you want to keep listening, all you have to do is go ahead and subscribe. leave us a rating
Yeah.
review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, especially, because that's the thing that kickstarts the growth. All these weird algorithms that say, what do people actually care about? When you care enough to give a 5-star, not a 1-star.
Oh boy.
But a 5-star, and
Keeps us humble, Max.
Right there,
right?
you go. And say, what has this done for me? Just listening to these episodes, how has it changed my thinking? Help me learn about Jesus. That really helps us. And I'm also going to put down a link to Danielle's book, A Line in the Sand, Danielle Devine.
Yeah, it's
great. A really good book.
Really is.
I'm about halfway through it now. I'm really enjoying it.
Me too.
And Steve's also got 3 books.
3 books.
They're available on Amazon, so I've got that link up there too.
That's awesome.
So, and as always, the Father's House Church, we're going live at the house every night at 6 p.m.
Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then that's a good one because other people in different parts of the
we
world.
have Australians and
we've
New
got
Zealanders,
Australians and
English.
UK's
English,
listening. Yeah.
people in Romania.
Romania, really?
Yeah. I don't know,
Maybe
that must
someone
be-
in the Netherlands
Trisha
is
Dojeros,
watching.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe
We
someone
got-
from the Netherlands.
We keep talking about Yost. We'll get more
His
Dutch
brother.
girls
I love his
listening.
brother, Ruben.
Ruben.
I hope he's listening.
Hope you're listening out there, Ruben.
Should we name some more people so we can tag them and just get more people? Get this
I
all
don't know
around the
where
world.
we tag. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know
Does
where the
anyone
tags
know?
go. But I can put links in the bottom
You're
of the
awesome.
episode for how you can share this with more people. So look for that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
guys.
Max. You're amazing.
And thanks for your wisdom. And we'll see you more next week
Amen.
On the Uncommon Truth.
on the Uncommon Truth.
Uncommon truth.
Thanks for listening. The Uncommon Truth is available anywhere podcasts can be found, so make sure you subscribe, leave a rating, a review, and let us know what you think so that more people can get involved with the conversations about Christianity the way Jesus meant it to be.